Renee, I've got to go straight to you about the story that hit, well, so many news agencies yesterday after you reported that there was a little bit of a tiff going on between the Prime Minister Scott Morrison and the Mining Minister Matt Canavan. Now, it wasn't just a tiff, it was a rowdy discussion that apparently was heard by others outside the office, and the F word was used by Matt Canavan towards the Prime Minister. Firstly, do you stand by your story?
Oh, I stand by that 100%. I think what happens is, and I don't know how well you know Resources Minister Matt Canavan, but he is quite a passionate person. He does get, I think he goes from 0 to 100 pretty quickly, especially when he's passionate about something. You know, there's no doubt he stormed into the Prime Minister's office and he demanded a meeting about Collinsville. And there were it was very tense and it was very heated, and swear words were definitely used. That's without a doubt.
And this was about spending $10 million, right, on a feasibility study about a coal-fired generator. And so Scott Morrison told him, according to your story, that you should just push this away for a while, that you should slow down, and he was having none of it. Is that your story?
Well, I think what happened is there was an election commitment leading at the last election, and it was for two things. One, to look at North Queensland and Central Queensland energy security and whether there should be a feasibility study for Collinsville, which is there's a proponent for a new coal-fired generator in Collinsville, and they're an Indigenous-led company called Shine Energy. Minister Canavan is right behind that proposal. He wants this to get off the ground now. But Mr Morrison is saying to him, hang on a minute, let's just go through the proper processes. Let's go through all the probity issues.
Okay. All right, let's hear what Matt Canavan...
The Minister probably took that, yeah.
Yeah, let's go through and find out what Matt Canavan said to David Spears this afternoon.
I can't actually recall using that phrase, to be honest, but look, as I say, I am sometimes pretty passionate. I don't really make an apology for that.
Renee, whenever you hear a politician go, I, you probably know that he doesn't want to admit that he did do what the story said.
Well, I mean, I put it to the Minister and I put it to the Prime Minister's office. I used that exact phrase, was this said. They had 48 hours to come back to me and tell me it was wrong. Okay. And I'll tell you, neither of them did. Scott
Emerson, why I raise this firstly on this program tonight, because we've had this big commitment, this $1 billion commitment, which has been given the big tick by former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull today. He's thrown his support behind Scott Morrison's decision to inject an additional $1 billion into clean energy production. He took to Twitter, Turnbull praised the PM and then lashed out at his predecessor Tony Abbott for initially scrapping the fund. This is how Energy Minister Angus Taylor described the $1 billion investment.
This Grid Reliability Fund is going into place to ensure those projects are financed, are supported and go into the market as quickly as possible.
OK, so Turnbull goes, good call by Scott Morrison. Government to put an extra $1 billion into the Clean Energy Fund. Worth recalling that it was the Abbott government's policy to abolish it, and that one of my first decisions in 2015 was to retain it. Good progress. Gee, these miserable old ghosts upset me greatly. But Scott Morrison is prepared to delay something that an Aboriginal company wants to go ahead and give their local people jobs, that needs this $10 million infusion to try and get it off the ground, and that at the same time he's prepared to throw another $1 billion at renewables.
Well, Chris, I suspect Matt Canavan's going to be a lot more passionate today as well. Because very clearly in terms of this fund here, they are ruling out coal, ruling out high-efficiency, low-emission coal-fired power stations like being talked about at Collinsville. And there'll be a lot of people in the Nats, not just Matt Canavan, who are saying, sorry, that's fine, put your money into the Clean Energy Fund, but where's the projects that are important to us, important to Central Queensland, that delivered those seats that got you across the line at the election? And that's what fires up Matt Canavan. That's what fires up the Nats. And it's not just Matt Canavan. And there's a broader issue there in terms of the National Party, because they're concerned also about why isn't the leadership of the National Party fighting up and taking the fight up to the Liberal Party on this.
Yeah. And Renee, this is a really big point, because I get a feeling that that argument between Matt Canavan and the Prime Minister is a real turning point, especially given what was announced today and this renewable energy, clean energy investment, $1 billion, and yet we can't find $10 million to get something else off the ground, which gives us reliable, cheap power, which is what we've had with coal for so many decades.
Yes, but I think we can't overstate it as well. And we've got to remember too that fighting is not always infighting. This is what the Nats do. They fight for things. They're at their best when they are fighting. There's nothing wrong with storming into a Prime Minister's office and saying, hey, how about it? This is a policy that we took to the last election. Stump up, buddy. That doesn't mean this is not a fight for leadership. This is a fight for policy, and good on them for that. You know, good on both of them for that, for having that really robust conversation. The problem is when you get groupthink, like Labor did at the last election, you get franking credit policies, you get negative giggering policies. You want politicians to stand up and challenge.
Yep. OK, that's a fair point.